Round of shots on this Sunday night, March 20th, 2022. My man, James Streble, Kevin Hale. James, I see your mic is on mute. Can you? It's not
Got
a
it.
show.
There we go. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't want to interrupt the introduction.
Get that. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. Thursday was rough, and Friday was rough, and I'm just trying to get back to not being pissed off all the time. So that's where I am.
I hear you. Again, round of shots here on this Sunday night. We are hot and heavy. Recapping basically, not that we really wanted to do a recap of the season, James, for UK men's basketball, but here we are. Thursday night has come and gone, and now it's time to do a 2021-22 season recap, the good, bad, and the ugly. And and we're going to be you've got some hot takes. We text quite a bit Thursday evening, me, you, and Jason. And then I listened to your all's post-game show, which was just spot on.
Yeah.
When you're doing those post-game shows, on what channel is that again, James?
ESPN 680 105.7 here in Louisville, Kentucky. Well, Southern Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky area. But yeah, it was one of those things where, I don't wait around like some other hosts have to do before the post-game show and let things marinate and maybe settle down a little bit. It's very reactionary. So however I'm feeling at that moment, that's what the listeners are going to get. So I don't have time to cool down. It's an instant reaction, and it's something that I think is pretty unique to other options. So yeah, it was one of those shows where we probably could have gone for 2 hours or more. We went an hour and a half, and the phone calls were hot and heavy. People were not happy. That's probably, out of all the post-game shows I've done, which is, I think 5+ years or so, the most contentious and angry I've seen Big Blue Nation when it comes to basketball, especially, and John Calipari specifically. So people right now are not happy.
Not happy. You have a huge fan base, James.
Yeah.
Who have gone after Cal. They're not. They're blaming him.
Rightfully so.
I think so. I think so. And then, you've got still a group of people that still swear by him and gonna support him through thick and thin. I'm a Cal guy. I just don't agree with everything he does, and this was one of those times.
I like John Calipari as the head of Kentucky basketball, but when you bookend what happened Thursday, losing to a 15 seed, historically bad loss, with what happened last season, you go 9-16, a historically bad season.
Right.
And it's not going to fly. It's not going to fly. We had our sights set on the Final Four. We had our sights set on being one of those teams that many of the experts thought would be there at the very end. You have a National Player of the Year candidate in Oscar Tshiebwe. You have an NBA lottery pick candidate in Ty Washington. You had the pieces to make a special run, and the way Kentucky was not prepared, the way that Kentucky let St. Peter's dictate the game is a bad referendum on how John Calipari had this team not prepared for March Madness.
Totally with you. So again, tonight we'll recap the season. We'll talk Sweet 16, NCAA, the whole kind of takeaways leading through or going through the end of tonight. Joining us tonight, our man Max Godby.
There he is.
With
this guys, good.
Now this time around, James, you're usually co-hosting with me and asking questions during the show, but tonight you're on the table. Max is going to be my co-host because I know, one, he'll have some good questions to ask, and two, he wants to poke the bear.
I like it.
Yeah. So, James or Max, everything good on your end?
Oh, I get to play Sports Journal tonight, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Joining us as well is one of James's sidekicks on ESPN, or he's our sidekick too, Jason Ence. How are you, Jason?
Doing well.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, wasn't doing well Thursday night, and Friday kind of sucked. But the worst part about the post-game show, and I think James had the exact same issue, was you get off air, it's almost midnight, but you're still pissed and you're still fired up and you can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Friday was rough.
Friday was terrible. Friday, I was so worn out by the end of the day. And then I went and actually did go out Friday night, watch tournament games with some friends. And by the time I got home at about 11:30 p.m., I was completely wiped out. Saturday was rough too. Like today's the only day in about 3 days I've actually felt halfway normal.
Okay. Well, we'll take the half normal round Daddy tonight. Joining us, completing our nonsense tonight, is our friend Dr. John Huang. John, how are you?
Hey, Kevin. Hey, guys. It's been a while. I didn't realize that you guys had taken a little break from the podcast. I mean, I've been waiting this entire basketball season for my invite, and I didn't hear a peep from Kevin Hale or the Round of Shots guys. The fans are going crazy. They say it's their all-time favorite basketball team. Oscar Tshiebwe is having a season for the ages. I couldn't wait to hop on and give you my take. Heck, I even had a book that I wanted to promote, but I didn't hear anything from you guys. It was just crickets all along. Then the minute Kentucky poops the bed in the NCAA tournament, the second they poop the bed, I look down at my phone and it's Kevin Hale. He says, "Hey, Doc, can you come on the show?" So initially, I thought this was a setup, but regardless, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. This ought to be fun.
We know we can count on you to be one of the poopers in our party, because this is going to sound like we're just a bunch of poopers here. But as I've said on numerous shows in the past, James, it's not mean or hateful if it's true.
Right.
We're not attacking people. We're not attacking players or coaches. We're reacting to their play performance. It's nothing personal.
Right. And I think people do get that mixed up where, they act like me or you or anyone on the panel just wants to come on here and just bash John Calipari, be angry at the team. Or, man, I want to be happy. I don't like, I'm a naturally happy individual. I don't like being negative, but I got to call it like I see it, as we all do. And what we saw on Thursday night wasn't good. And it dated back to the SEC tournament. And some may say even before then, when this team started to take a slide. So I know we'll get into all that, but yeah, it's not, nobody wants Kentucky basketball or Kentucky athletics in this group to fail. Not any of us. But at the same time, we're going to ask questions when it doesn't look good. And what John Calipari did the last month of the season wasn't good. So we got to talk about it.
We are going to talk about it. But before we get started to the meat and potatoes of tonight's show, I've got to give props to the UK women's basketball team. John, you're very engaged with the program. Give us your, quick summation of the season.
Yeah, life is full of regrets, guys. And I guess one of my biggest regrets this year is not being down in Nashville to watch the UK women make that run in the SEC tournament. I followed the team consistently the entire year. I missed a string of games when I was following the Bengals on their Super Bowl run, a little bit of a humble brag there. But I was keyed in. By the way. Yeah, that was fantastic. But I was keyed in to the UK women throughout the entire year. And midway through the season, when they were in that downward spiral, I thought there's no way Kyra Elsie is going to turn this thing around. And as you're planning out your schedule and your postseason travel plans, sometimes you have to make those assignments early on. So I decided mid-season that I wasn't going to cover the women's basketball team in the postseason. Big mistake. And this is one of the reasons why I try to cover everything, because you never know when those magical moments are going to kick in. That turnaround the team had was arguably the greatest single season turnaround I've ever witnessed in basketball. I've seen teams get better over the course of the offseason, but never within a single season. Here was a team that was in a literal nosedive. They were 9-11. They were battling injuries. They were dealing with suspensions. It was looking as if they were dead in the water. And suddenly they get their players back, specifically Dreana Edwards, who Coach Elsie had suspended. And it's like a switch was flipped. They win 10 games in a row. They win the SEC tournament. They beat the number 1 team in the country in South Carolina on the last second shot. And essentially they save Coach Kyra Elsie's job.
Yeah, it was a great run. SEC women's champion, attorney champions, and no fluke. They beat some really good teams and, South Carolina along the way. So, and then the tournament happened. Was it Princeton? Is that who they're opponents?
Yeah. They got a tough draw and they ended up going down in the first round, but it shouldn't decrease the magnitude of what they did coming back and winning that SEC championships. I mean, in January and February, there were a lot of people calling for Elsie's head. People were saying that Barnhart had hired her a bit too early, that she was in way over her head. She had lost control of the locker room. I put out a post during the period that I think I was one of the few people defending her at the time. I said she deserves a little bit more time. People need to quit piling on. She was thrown into this very difficult position with Matthew Mitchell resigning so abruptly. Then COVID hits and she has to deal with all the testing and social distancing. And then you throw in all the injuries and suspensions. I thought she was doing an adequate job. So I think this SEC championship will at least buy her another year or possibly 2.
There you go. Anybody want to add to the women's take or season? James, Jason, Max.
I'm just glad Cal found his watch.
that was one of the he lost his Rolex. And wasn't it somebody on the staff that actually found, or somebody?
I think it was a player's parent.
Player's parent.
From what I understand, yes. And they returned it to Kyra Elsie, who then returned it to Cal. It was supposed to be his lucky watch, but so much for that.
So much for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And with Ryan Howard, I mean, we all agree she's a generational player. You're never going to be able to replace her, but Kentucky does have a fairly studded recruiting class coming on board. They've got a big 6'5" player out of Texas, got one of the top point guards in the country coming in. And of course, Miss Kentucky basketball out of Anderson County, Maya Jenkins. She's already committed to UK. So things are looking up, but big shoes to fill with Ron Howard gone.
Yeah. Again, congrats to UK women. Basically, ending the season on a great note. That's a great accomplishment for them. Before we get into UK basketball, let's do a roundtable quick take on what everyone has seen through the NCAA tournament so far. Take St. Peter's off the table. But James, I'll start with you. What's something that's your big take out of I guess we're winding down to 16 teams?
Well, the ACC looks a lot better than we all thought it was previously. I mean, North Carolina won, and then you had, obviously Duke wins. Miami, I think the last time I saw, they were winning. And then who was the other team? I know those Notre Dame was winning too. So the ACC, which we all said was a terrible conference, and it seems to happen like this every year. Last year was the Pac-12, right? The Pac-12 stunk, and then they end up going pretty far with USC, UCLA going to the Final Four. So the ACC was bad, but now they're not bad because they're going to the Sweet 16, not in droves, but pretty regularly here. So that was my number one takeaway so far, and it doesn't make me happy. And the SEC, kind of fraudulent. I mean, Kentucky's out, Tennessee's out. Last time I checked, Auburn was losing to Notre Dame. And so, yeah, I mean, I know Arkansas won earlier today, so at least Arkansas is going forward, but the SEC has not covered itself in glory in this NCAA tournament.
No, supposedly the top conference of the season. Jason, nice segue as I run right into you, and you have an issue. But your take so far, Jason, through tonight.
Well, other than the fact that my bracket is basically toilet paper or confetti, whichever you want it to be. I mean, it's
How would that feel, by the way, if it was toilet paper? Just curious.
probably better than Thursday night did.
Okay.
I think we came into the tournament knowing that there wasn't really any one dominant team, and I think that's played out. You know, Gonzaga had to fight for their life to survive to get to the Sweet 16. Duke was in a fight for their life. You know, Kentucky obviously did what Kentucky did. Baylor's out. There's a lot of parity this year. And I think the transfer portal has played a big role in that. I think that's going to be what we're going to see moving forward. I don't know that we're going to have year in, year out, we're going to have that one dominant team or that two dominant teams because players are going to be able to move so freely. I think you're going to see a lot more ability for teams that may not recruit very well to bring in some players that immediately make them better and give them an opportunity to make a run in the tournament. I think you're also seeing, you know, there's a really big emphasis on if a team comes into the tournament hot, you kind of have to trust them, and vice versa. If they come into the tournament and they've been struggling a bit, you've seen that's played out to where those struggles continue. I mean, how many of us saw North Carolina play in the way that they did? You know, the whole 25-point implosion notwithstanding, but who had them, you know, 3 weeks ago even making second round of the tournament? We're all mocking the ACC, and like James said, you know, the ACC apparently is a lot better than it looked.
But in fairness to North Carolina, if there was one team that has trended very positively since December, that would probably be, to me, that North Carolina would be. I mean, I think they're capable of winning this thing.
Yeah. I don't think there's a clear-cut favor right now. Maybe Gonzaga, but even they had their issues with Memphis last night. So I don't know. I think this year is way up in the air. I'm not sure. I mean, Kansas, they didn't blow out their opponent convincingly yesterday. So it's anybody's tournament more so than it has been in a long time.
Doc, what say you between Thursday and tonight?
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise for me has been North Carolina. I picked them to go out in the first round against Memphis, and here Hubert Davis has them 2 games away from going to the Final Four. I still like the way Gonzaga looks. I mean, they've had two really hard games. They've had 2 challenges. They were still able to do what they had to do to win those games. I'm picking them to win the whole thing. I think Mark Few is a good coach. He fell short just a little bit last year. This year, he joins the national championship club. Although every time I see him on the sidelines, I can't help but think of him on that police body cam video when he was arrested on that DUI. But good for him. Looks like he's learned his lesson, put it behind him, and by April 4th of this year, he's going to have as many national titles as John Calipari. Congratulations.
Well, I'm pretty sure Coach Few is not drinking on the job. At least, from the, for at least a 40-minute stretch, we can probably argue if some of our coaches seemed a bit inebriated towards the end of the St. Peter's game. But for Max, I know you're not a basketball guy, but did you spend any time watching any of this?
Oh, I love March Madness. Okay. Again, I like to gamble, so it is a fun time for me. I love filling out the brackets, and I love mayhem. And this has been, of all March Madness, it reminds me a lot of the 2011. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the 2010, 2011 March Madness, 2013, 2014, I think. The year that UConn and Kentucky were in the national championship, you had an 8 and a 9 seed playing against each other. Reminds me, you've got St. Peter's, that's basically like George Mason back from years and years ago. So for me, I've loved the absolute chaos of it. And for me, as a fan of UK athletics and wants all UK teams to do well, but also being on the end to where, my entire week was ruined if we lost because I was going to get yelled at. I was going to get run for it. I was going to get humiliated. And then I see myself on TV get humiliated. So me just watching regular games, it really has no effect. So watching the St. Peter's game, it's like, oh my gosh, they're going to lose. That's hilarious. And also I was like, I got to tune into James and Stroll for this.
Mm.
I was like, sorry, Larry, sorry, Kenny, I got to listen
That was
to James
can't
on this one.
miss post game.
Thank
my
you, Max.
goodness, yes.
Thank you, Max.
So,
Yeah,
Max, are you officially saying that the post game show that happened after that Kentucky St. Peter's game is the go-to post game show? Did I hear that?
I didn't say that. I want to hear James's thoughts on this, and I knew James wouldn't pick up my phone. He wouldn't pick up the call.
If you would have called me or texted me, I've always picked up when you call.
Yeah, but you were working. I'm not going to bother you while you're working.
Good point. Good point. If you would have given me a post,
you could have gotten through.
There you go.
Yeah, you should have called the show.
Then
Or
I
if
would
you would
have
have called me after the show, I would have picked up.
Oh,
Well, James, you put me on notice at the beginning of the show that you really have a hard stop, so I'm going to try to make this hard stop a reality for you tonight.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All right, it is time to get into the main event of the show. It is the UK men's basketball team. We're going to talk the good, bad, and the ugly from the season. James, you alluded to the fact that we had been trending down. And I know somebody who definitely saw us trending low is our special guest. Right now.
Look at you bums. I'm not Michael Bennett. Hello. Hello.
Andy
fellas. What's
Sweetie
going
in the
on?
house.
I
This
finally,
is a pleasure. Man.
I get to see the sex room. The sex room of Kevin Hale looks great. Streble, how's the mother-in-law? Everything good with the mother-in-law?
Fantastic, Andy. Very good. I like not just the tip.
Good. I figured that. I've never met Max. The only time I see Max is when he likes an anti-Biden tweet on Twitter. So it's good to finally meet Max as well. And
very nice to meet you.
Yes. Ence's dungeon there. Doctor, good evening. Hello, fellas. What are we doing? What are we drinking?
We're
Got a little potion tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers, my friends.
Mitchell Hannigan's watching, by the way.
Good.
Streble, just so you know that. Old Mitch.
There you go, Mitch. That's for you.
He didn't have any basketball to watch, so.
Max, I asked you to kind of jump in and do co-hosting duties so James could be on the other side of the table. But I'll set this up. As the season was winding down, Max, the men's basketball team was trending low. Performance-wise, not so good. They stunk against Vandy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I know you know this. They ignored the shoot-around against Tennessee. Is that the game that they didn't do the shoot-around?
So says Cal, yes.
So says Cal. Yeah, that's a good point too. So Max, you get to open up you throw the first question to the team, the panel. To get us going with the whole, the good, bad, and the ugly of this season. So go.
Well, my first thing, I want to go back to something that happened a few years ago that I think we need to discuss now is this whole thing of this lifetime contract. Because you know me, I may not know a lot about basketball, but I know a lot about numbers. And so I just want to ask, is this season, let's say the past 4 years, has it been worth 2 vehicles that he gets permanently for unlimited use, 20 front row arena tickets?
We're also paying those high ticket gas prices too, right?
Yes. Oh, he gets the gas for free. The unlimited use of the RJ Corman jet as well. And then also, if you wanted to get rid of him, you'd have to pay him $43 million. So my question is, has it been worth it for these past 4 seasons since he signed that contract?
Let's do this. Start with Dr. John first.
I think if you're basing it solely on hindsight and looking back on what has happened over the course of the past few years, then I think the answer to that is a rhetorical no. Of course not. We didn't get bang for the buck. But a lot of times with these contracts, the way they're structured, they're based on what had you done for me previously. So I think when that contract came into play, it was based on the Calipari from 2009 to 2015. And unfortunately, we're reaping the benefits of a Calipari from 2016 to 2022. Not even remotely close. So the contract is probably valid for what he had done previously. It's nowhere near valid for what he has done for us recently. And as you know, in sports, it's what have you done for me lately?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a great song by Janet Jackson too, right? Miss Nasty. If you're, yeah, James, I'll let you jump in now. Max, same question. Is the contract? You still got the warm fuzzies with that contract?
Hell no. I mean, I feel like Cal, and I said this on the take with Andy earlier this week, I think Friday maybe, feels like it's semi-retirement. It just feels like he's more interested in other things.
What's this deal about Nashville moving to Nashville?
He bought a house in Nashville. Was it that? It wasn't the fact that he bought a house in Nashville. It's like his daughter lives there. She's a doctor at Vanderbilt University. That's fine. But it was like made to be this big thing, mainly by the family. Kind of called the media out, like, why are you even reporting this? It's not a big deal. Da 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 da. This, that, and the other. And it's like, what? Why are we doing this? It just feels like he has other interests than basketball, and basketball isn't his number one interest right now. It has not been worth the money for a while. And you look at the numbers, he, between 2009 and I believe it's 2016, he's averaging 3.5 wins per tournament. That's down to 1.5 wins per tournament now. So the fact that he's making all this money and you're getting half of the wins in the tournament doesn't add up, and Kentucky fans aren't very happy with it. And I've not seen the blowback on John Calipari to this extent. And it had to be a loss against St. Peter's. But here's the question to me, and I know we'll talk about this. What's he doing to change anything? We thought he would change with the coaching staff, but it's the same story: bad shooting, bad free throw shooting, crappy looking offense. You change the entire staff. You bring in some new players. But what's the one constant? John Calipari.
There you go. Jason, take one for the team here. Let's let not Michael Bennett go next.
Well, I mean, listen, hopefully you guys can hear me. Listen, I understand what you're saying. In fact, I mean, like, I get it. You're not wrong. Let me just take the money thing out of it. Like, if they were paying him like $4 or $5 million, who cares? It's a bunch of lower level vest wearing people that are paying the contract. Streble, you're not paying the contract when you go to your one Vanderbilt game every year and get the one thing of ice cream in the half Chick-fil-A sandwich because your gut. I mean, what are you talking about? And you the same thing. You're eating free media pizza or whatever you're eating.
No, that pizza's awful.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but just take all that out. Like, that's just chump change. That's a couple $1 million to a massive athletic department. I mean, it just comes down to just winning games. Like, that's all it comes down to. Like, to me, I understand the contract stuff. You're not wrong. And think about this, how sad Cal was today. You mentioned, well, he's looking at other things, Streble. I mean, this dude had his entire coaching staff today to go see DJ Wagner because he knows now. Well, there's two things with that. Number one, he knows he's in a fight. He was in a fight anyway. Now he's in a fight with Kenny Payne. I mean, Kenny Payne now throws it's like a Royal Rumble. Now he runs into the ring. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Whether Louisville gets him or not, that's a conversation point for the next year or so. But also, I'm pretty sure UK wanted to be in Philadelphia. They wanted to be in Philly next weekend so DJ Wagner could ride down. I mean, that was going to be the thing, and you'd be playing good basketball, and you'd be in the Sweet 16, and then you'd be in the Elite 8. Then you have a chance for a Final Four. So I think what's interesting here is early on in his career, Calipari, he mimicked Pitino in a lot of ways, right? And we always talked about that, and it's almost like it's happening again. The pressure really got on Rick. The pressure really got on Pitino to start winning, right? Now you could say, well, that's why I fell into the issues with the NCAA. Fair enough. But I wonder if Cal is to that point. The difference is Cal doesn't seem like he's less worried about what you all think than just about any coach in the country.
Right.
Like, it's not that he doesn't hear it, but like we all, like a lot of people believe, hey, he needs like a Phil Martelli type. Larry Brown was with Penny Hardaway. That was probably to enhance the cheating, but that's an entirely different discussion. But you guys are like entering that Pitino where, like, is he going to reinvent himself? Is this the way he's going to go forward? And I still think he can kind of win going forward. But when the NCAA, you're down to a one-game situation, man, that's them the rules. Them the rules, man. I mean, it's not fun. It's random as hell, but them the rules. So entering Pitino territory, and then I'm just not as worried about the money as I am like winning. Like being third in the SEC should not be something Kentucky is going into this year. They went to the final weekend they could have been fourth in the SEC.
That's true.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Jason, staying with this narrative too. Just give us your take on the whole Cal contract situation, then I'll segue.
I mean, for me, I never understood why they gave him the contract in the first place. It's not so much about the money. It's when you give somebody carte blanche that, hey, here's a lifetime deal. What's the motivation? Everybody, when you have a job, unless it's, the greatest job in the world and it's your dream job, everybody knows that they have to do enough minimum baseline to avoid getting fired. That's not there for Cal. So a first weekend exit's like, okay, whatever. That wasn't a guy on Thursday night that looked like he was crushed by the fact that they went out in the first round. He looked like he did pretty much every other press conference the last 4 years. For me, it's about the fact that his results have gone downhill since he's gotten that contract. He doesn't seem to have the urgency. We saw it last year. Instead of trying to do things and make changes, he was being arrogant Cal, and it's always well, the players won't do what I ask them to do. Well, at some point we have to start questioning what you're asking them to do and why you're not changing it. Additionally, for me, it's the arrogance towards the fans that upset the fans more than the contract or the money. If he's making $9 million, whatever, like Andy said, that's not coming out of my pocket. That's coming out of, Joe Jablonski's pocket, who makes money from coal and he has nothing else to spend it on. Let's give it to UK Athletics. That's fine. If they want to give him that money, that's their right. That's their prerogative. But for the fans, when you go out in the first round and you're just sitting there continuing to be arrogant and you don't make changes, and like Andy said, I don't see him bringing in a coach to kind of help him change things. It's the same, I keep telling them to shoot. I keep telling them to shoot. Fans don't want to hear that. We want to hear what you did wrong and how you're going to fix it. And we don't hear that from him. So to have a lifetime contract, it just makes every UK fan out there think, what's going to be different next year other than maybe he gets better players?
You guys are pulling a Satterfield. You guys are pulling a Scott Satterfield right now. He doesn't care enough after a press conference. Ence, you are literally the sheriff right now.
No,
watch
your mouth.
That's exactly where you are.
Listen,
they are a horse that did not fire in the Kentucky Derby. That is what they are. I mean, to make a corny Kentucky Derby, that's exactly what they are. They didn't fire, and that doesn't mean that Cal doesn't get crushed for it. Like, I want to be clear, like the anger with Cal, I understand, but I don't think it's some greater narrative, whether it be the contract or whether it be him not caring or he got a house in Nashville or whatever those things. No, like literally, no, he's not one of us. He makes $9 million a year, like base, like doing nothing, like can lose every game and make $9 million. And then all the different things, endorsements and speaking and all the different things that he can do to make money. He's not one of us. So no, he should have a $2 million house in Nashville, probably next to Nick Saban and Clay Travis. That's exactly where my man. He
flies charter while we fly coach.
Yeah, I guess I guess my major question is though, like, what's the level of comfortability where he feels like he doesn't have to, like he's not being pushed. Cal's his best when he's being pushed. He's not getting pushed by anybody. The only person that can push John Calipari right now is John Calipari. He ain't getting fired.
Not even Mitch. Mitch
Not
can't
going
come
anywhere. Everything's on his terms now.
Right.
So when everything's on his terms, how comfortable is he? How willing to change is he? And if nobody else is pushing him or holding his feet to the fire, he ain't got to answer to anybody. He ain't got to answer to Mitch Barnhart. He's more powerful than Mitch Barnhart. That's my
Dr.
concern.
John. Let me go. Dr. John, you're on those. You're in those pressers. What's the question that he needs to answer to you?
He's a star in those pressers.
No, there are a lot of things right now, and I'll be the first to say that I think that as of this point, he's still the right man for the job. I mean, there are a lot of issues that are going on right now in terms of his X's and O's and on the court coaching. I'm not a coach. I never coached the game before. Well, I take that back. I did coach my dental school intramural team back in the 80s, and we didn't do that well. I've also been a fantasy football coach for the past 10 years, and I've done great on that. I even won a championship on that one. But I haven't coached at Calipari's level, so I'm always a little bit hesitant to criticize and make recommendations on X's and O's type things that I don't know much about. But I'm a fan, man, and I've watched a lot of Kentucky basketball, probably more so than most of the people out there. And what I have seen under Cal recently, it is a disturbing trend. You know, running antiquated offenses and poor clock management when the game is on the line, and not having an inbounds play. I mean, what did he say his strategy was when throwing the ball inbounds? Just get it in. I mean, what kind of answer is that? You know, I question him being so stubborn. He still never wants to play the zone defense regardless. He talks down to fans and media alike. I agree about that. He doesn't plan specifically for the opposition. Remember what he always says? He says our focus needs to be simply on ourselves, getting ourselves better rather than worrying about that other team. Well, as we saw, that type of thinking gets you beat real quick in the tournament. And I don't ever want to hear this word tweak again. He's known for his tweaks. I don't want to hear that again. That word should be forever banned from the lexicon of UK sports from now on. You know?
Let me throw this out there. It's just for anybody listening. Cal tweets. He's on social media, on all the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. He posts his shit. He makes his comments. And then you got thousands of people on BBN replying to him, taking shots at him. For the record, guys, he doesn't read your all's comments. Zero. Someone else is doing the social media for him anyways. He's not reading that shit. So people are wasting their time. But you know, someone asked me, was this the worst Kentucky loss during Cal's period? During Cal's run. And everyone seems to want to say the Robert Morris, the NIT loss. We were a bad team. We were a shitty team by the time the NCAA or the NIT started. And then we were actually on the road. That was a road game, right? It was at Robert Morris, wasn't it? Ugh. No, I do think this arguably you can do this, and maybe Wisconsin too. I don't know. This definitely as a 2 seed against a 15 seed. A team that there was some expectations that could make a run. Max, I'll throw this at you. I'm sorry. You're answering questions too. I think this is Cal's worst loss at UK. Stop shaking your head, Andy. But go ahead.
I mean, I think rephrasing the question, which one hurt the most, or which was the worst loss when it comes to emotionally? You would say the Wisconsin game, because you had 98 NBA All-Stars on that team, where Dr. John could have coached that team and could have won a national championship with that team. And that was the one I think that hurt the most for fans.
Fair.
But I mean, you've got an 8-point lead. And again, I know nothing about basketball. Nothing. My grandfather yelled at me because I couldn't understand the game, and that's when I went to football instead of basketball. So I don't understand it, but I understand enough when people around me that know the game keep yelling the same thing, because I do the same thing with football. And it's like, okay, if you're not able to make adjustments, it seems like UK blows a lot of leads within the last 3 minutes, or somehow just completely gets dismantled the last 3-4 minutes of a game. There's a trend going, and then it's against a team called St. Peter's that does not have the same talent, and it wasn't beating. I mean, St. Peter's beat the brakes off of you. Like, this wasn't like a scrappy team that was just staying put. A dude with a porno mustache was just straight up wrecking you.
Says the guy with the porno mustache.
Well, it's day today.
Okay.
But all that being said, I mean, it's not like it was like a close game like Wisconsin UK. I mean, St. Peter's basically handled that game for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
In a game that should not have been handled at all. And I think this is it. I think it just proves as evidence. It may not be the worst game. I'm starting to agree with Andy on this. I don't think it's the worst game, but it's just an exclamation point of a series of bad games that's starting to show a very long trend.
Okay. Andy, why is the St. Peter's game not good?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most embarrassing. It's just a semantics. It's embarrassing. I mean, it's one of those infamous losses that you will see along with Christian Leitner. I mean, this will be number 2, right? I mean, it'll be number 2.
The only time I've ever lost sleep after a game was Leitner. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it was the 2014 national title game. I mean, that because that UConn team was a bum team. That was one of those. Yeah, that was one of those forgettable championships. And again, but if you win one, it doesn't matter. It's not forgettable to you. It would have been number 9. So that's why I think that would be the one that I would have. I would argue one other thing going back real quick, and then we can move on to other people.
You argue a lot, Andy.
Well,
you've listened to the show. That's what he does.
I know. From 3 to what's that time? What's that, James?
Ence was talking about talking down the fans, and I agree with that. So was our doctor, but this year there hasn't been that. I just think that's all predicated on winning and losing, right? I just this year we give it because Kentucky has been since the Notre Dame game on, right? They've been good. And they've had the benefit of the doubt, and then they beat Tennessee and Kansas, and they rode those 2 games to a two seed, essentially. I mean, they did. They rode those 2 games to a 2 seed, and even when they would lose a game, it's like, well, they had an injury, or well, it's on the road, and well, it was a close game. It was a 50-50 game. All those things true, but that's why y'all were never mad at Cal this year in the middle of the year. Cal had to try to do a quick magic trick on you guys at the end, and it didn't work. Usually he does that in the middle somewhere. Usually you get that in mid-January. Usually we talk about that in mid-January, or you get that in February. Doesn't it seem that way? But this year you were good until you got to the SEC tournament, and it's like, we're not firing. Ty's having to save us against Vanderbilt, okay? And then Tennessee smacks you. And then Tennessee smacks you. And it's like, this baby's not firing. And then it's tweak and I like the tweak and all those sorts of things. That's why this year's been odd. We've talked about this. They haven't had any drama. They've had no drama. No. They've had injuries, but that's not drama. No, that's not a guy leaving the team. Yeah. That's not a suspension. That's not, Kellen Grady, if he was doing what he's done the last, couple weeks in the middle of the season, but there's been no drama. Not like Louisville, for instance, or other teams. He's always had teams that have had drama. And this year, you've liked Cal until the end. You like Cal, and then a nuke landed on you. It's unbelievable. That's what makes this season unbelievable. Is it was good. Wait a minute, the SEC championship. Does this mean something? Boom, in the tournament. Oh my God, it does mean something. We loved everything we were doing all off season until middle of March, and then it all ended.
Speaking of nukes, I don't know what y'all were doing Friday night. I had no idea that we were going to get severe weather Friday night. If you remember, tornado warning.
Oh yeah,
freaking
sirens.
the sirens
Everything
were
was
going off.
Yeah,
As
was
soon as I
nuts.
heard the sirens, I thought, and my son tweeted me at the same time, are those missiles incoming? I didn't know clue. I didn't know the bad weather. It's like, good God, war is
No sirens over here in God's
Is it
country.
Putin?
Is it Putin? Blame? I don't know. Max, you'll retweet. Biden will get the blame, and Max will retweet it.
I don't retweet. I just like it.
Okay, just like
Major difference.
I've been inside the the ammo factory that's over in Jeff, or that's like there's a huge ammo factory that was World War II. Streble knows it goes on for miles and miles. I had a buddy. We would take his Jeep up like on the side and the side of it, and we had a hole in the fence, and we went in there one time, and there were cows. We've been there several times. There were cows everywhere. And out of nowhere, these flashlights go off on us, and it's the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life. And so we run as fast as we can. I have a buddy who played soccer, so he's a small guy, not fat like me, and he was running, and he ran into a barbed wire fence, full speed, not having any idea it was there. Pitch black in the middle of an ammo factory with ghosts and ghouls and all of Streble's aliens and all sorts of things. Oh yeah, that's yeah. There you go. That's God's country. That's God's country.
You can gamble and run into a barbed wire fence all in one night.
You damn right.
Yeah. I'm trying to do a good and bad and the ugly tonight, and we're just kind of all over, which is fine. There was one good moment or good thing. The best thing about this season, James, clearly Oscar, and everybody can regurgitate him, and he's meant so much to this season, to this program. He's a hero in just one season. He's put up stats that haven't been heard of for decades. We'll talk Oscar another time, but from this season, good, bad, the ugly, give me something that you can take away as good. Okay.
Well, beating the piss out of Kansas and Lawrence was pretty good. So that was.
But we're about to lose
the
all-time wins to them soon.
Yes, that we're tied now. Yes, thank you, Bill Self. No, like Andy said, that win put Kentucky in a different level. That win by itself
that changed.
Put Kentucky on
like
a different stratosphere in the minds of college. In the minds of college basketball experts, like, oh my God, no one does that at Fog Allen. Nobody does that. Kentucky did it. And when I guarantee when the selection committee was looking at stuff and people were talking about, it's like, well, Kansas is 1 seed. Kentucky did this on their floor at their court. So without that win, Kentucky's looked at very differently. That season, even though it ended in a thud, is looked at differently if they don't have that win at Kansas.
No, that's a great point. Doc, John?
Oscar's the obvious answer to that, but I'm also going to give a shout out to the Big Blue Nation. Blue Mist, as I like to refer to it at. The fans came out in full force this year. They were down at the SEC tournament in Tampa. They were up in Indy. They were loud and proud. They did everything they could to pull the Cats through. They were proactive. They were reactive. It just wasn't enough. I was in the military for 10 years, and I was stationed all over the U.S. and over in Europe. I met other service members who went to other schools and were avid fans of their teams. And in talking to them, here's what I discovered. There were two fan bases who really stood out to me as being over the top. Any guesses as to who they were?
Can Duke and the two letters in between, the D and the E?
Well, obviously Kentucky basketball fans, and then Alabama football fans, obviously.
Okay.
But there was a big difference between the two. Bama fans, they were overtly crazy. They were nuts. Kentucky fans, on the other hand, they were passionate. They felt invested in the program itself. They felt like they were part of it, and they had ownership in it. So every year when Kentucky loses, there's this real sense of disappointment. But this year, it was just really worse. It felt even worse because this was supposed to be a year of rebirth. The last time Kentucky was in the NCAA tournament was March 31st, 2019. You remember they had lost to Auburn.
Auburn.
Then you had the COVID
Elite
year
Eight,
in
yeah.
2020, then that horrific 9-16 season, and now this. But Kentucky fans, they're resilient, if nothing else. They were there this year. They've always been there in the past. They'll always be there in the future, win or lose. Kentucky fans, and that passion that they bring elevates the program to the top. So that's what's good in my mind.
Good point. I mean, there was a lot of games. The excitement was there. I mean, it's blue. We're going to travel, and the support was clearly there. Jason, I'll start with you, or go to you next. Give me something good. Tell me something good from this season.
That it was fun again. Last year was miserable, especially for those of us that, it was one thing to be a fan and watch it, and you could choose not to watch it if it got too depressing or too demoralizing. For those of us that had to, because we had to report on it in Dr. Huang's case, or talk about it in mine.
Your old post game shows were,
but they weren't fun, and there was nothing that we could really say. By the time we got to the halfway point of the season, it was obvious that the season was shot. Nothing was going to get better, and it was just depressing as could be. And James and I talked about it, midway through this season, that it was fun again to watch Kentucky basketball and to have that feeling back. And until, the last month, it was really fun, and it brought some enjoyment, especially when, we got to see how miserable things could be with another program nearby.
I know, but James, Thursday night around 10ish, that program down the street from us, they were all grins.
And
Kentucky
rightfully
takes
so.
the
I would
L.
have done the same thing.
Then they bring in their head coach too. Andy, real quick, give me something good that you saw.
Yeah,
from this.
I think for me, coming from this season, and we'll see if someone comes back that we don't think is going to come back. And I don't mean Damian Collins or Bryce Hopkins. I mean, Ty Washington's dad looking for a little attention already. Oscar, if he's a second round pick. And this leads, obviously those are the biggest questions. I think for me, though, it ties into the biggest thing, and that is NIL. I think Kentucky basketball and football this year showed a commitment to that on the front end much more than some other places. I don't want to compare them directly to Louisville or Indiana, although more than those, because they had some of. You look at Wandale Robinson, you look at Will Levis coming back, you look at offensive line, and then you go to basketball and you look at Ty and his Porsche. You look at the pitch for recruits going forward, and for a guy like Oscar, I don't know if NIL changes anything. I don't know if you say, hey, you're in the 40s or 50s in the NBA. Listen, he's getting rebounds without jumping in college. That's just not going to work in the NBA. And that's not me denouncing him. It's like, I think he can be an NBA player, but can you convince him that money is there? That's the biggest question going forward. But on the front end of this, Kentucky, I think, was acting big time. They got their star wide receiver and their star quarterback, and they've got basketball players. And I don't know, but I'd imagine Shane Sharp in some ways has used it or would use it going forward. I'm sure that's part of the pitch. I think name, image, and likeness. Kentucky, I don't know if it was a worry, but the Mitch Barnhart factor. When I always remember he did that first press conference, it looked like he, did not want to be there, had a gun to his back. At the time, Vince Tyra at U of L was like, let's go. Now, he didn't have the players. That's a whole different story. But Kentucky you got a caviar company paying for Ty Washington. Okay. Those sorts of things. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think those are good things for Kentucky. So for me, one of the big things for this season is Kentucky adapting quickly and getting their guys some funds immediately for name, image, and likeness. And I think it made a big deal.
It made a big deal. I think it makes, Max, I'll go to you real quick. It makes a huge deal moving forward for players who didn't get the playing time. But if they transferred out of Kentucky, Max, they're going to take a pay cut when it comes to the NIL thing. Fair.
You would assume so. You would assume so, but I mean, you look at the transfer process in football right now. Again, I'm not real familiar with the transfer portal stuff for basketball, but for football, it's still rampant because there's still someone that's willing to cut a deal. Like Andy said, I think UK got into the forefront because they realized that there's not a lot of companies in Kentucky outside of coal and then your car salesmen, your car dealerships that are going to be able to really compete with an Alabama, with a Georgia, a Texas, Notre Dame. You're just not going to be able to compete. But when UK came up with that kind of coalition, I mean, it's basically a cartel is basically what these businesses came up with. But it was a formidable way to be able to compete. And it was a very innovative way to compete in this new NIL world. So I think that's going to play a factor. And then also, there's a difference between being a transfer for UK football with the ability to go to maybe Bama or play somewhere out west where you're going to be the stud. There's still something else about leaving Kentucky basketball and going somewhere else. It's always going to be a grade down. It's like an Alabama player transferring out. Except the one corner that played for transfer to Georgia, and looked like that was a good move for him. But it's kind of similar to that realm. I think just the status of being a Kentucky basketball player. I mean, not a lot of schools are going to, like you were saying, going to throw a Porsche at you. I mean, I'd probably make the argument. I probably wouldn't transfer. I never had any intention of transferring, but you throw a Porsche my way, I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'll stick around. I'll stick around a little bit longer, but I think that does play a big role in it. For
James,
sure.
I'm
and
cognizant of the time, so
yeah.
just give me a few more minutes. Jason, did you get to?
But what does Streble have to do? What does he have to do? Does he have to go to bed? What's going on with Streble? Was 10 o'clock the end? What's happening here that I don't know?
He played the lack of family time card on me. Is how
it was an
What have you been
abundance.
doing? What have you been doing all weekend?
Times.
I've been doing baseball. There you go.
Do you, for the record, does Andy? Do you get the text from James during the day that we've got to end right at 6? Now, granted, you all always end at 6.
Well, no, we end at 6 because I'm not doing extra for the company. Basically is that. Wow. Okay, so you do have to go. You're like
he'll give me a couple more minutes as we can.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm hanging out for a little bit longer.
Yeah. If Jason could do it last week, yeah. So.
The question is the wife working tonight, Streble?
Is she?
No.
Is the mother?
She's laying there petting.
Still there?
She's laying there petting her
Yes.
spot on the bed, like, come on, honey.
That's why there's a fake background.
That's why there's a brick wall. That's Kentucky season. I thought it was just ironic that it's Kentucky season. It's a brick wall in the background.
It's Kellen Grady.
Kellen Grady pitched in to make this for me.
All right.
You put the poor doctor in this conversation. It's a sex joke.
Doc could probably make some, recommendations. Put a prescription in, whatever.
We've got a sponsor for that.
Do you?
Yeah. Streble popped that about 35 minutes ago. You don't have to worry about it. That's why he needs to get out of here by 10:05.
Bluetooth
doesn't wear off.
Computer will race on its own. Like, what's going on?
My phone will start to float across the screen.
What has all right? Let's we're rounding third. We're round third and head for home here. Jason, what do you need to see moving forward?
Good analogy.
Yeah. What do you need to see moving forward?
Bravo.
Yeah, go, brother.
I need to see changes, and I know that.
Can you narrow it down a little bit?
Well, I was going to say, I know that's, a broad statement, but the two changes that I want to see the most are I want to see him bring somebody in for the love of God who can help him manage the end of a game. Because going back to his UMass days, he does.
Is it true that we haven't won a tournament game since Kenny Payne's left?
Yes.
When When you have a tie game with 25 seconds left and your point guard stands there for 10 seconds staring at you trying to figure out what to do, and you can't call a timeout.
With a timeout in your pocket.
I swear Cal cashes these timeouts in for something. I don't know if it's like get out of chores for free with Ellen or what it is, but he cashes them in for something. I've never seen a coach want to take timeouts home with him the way that Cal does.
Well,
So
if Cal hit the blue chew at the halftime, like James did, that timeout prolongs the end of the game.
I also have a GIF tip.
He wanted to get home to kiss the dog.
Yeah, but here's a problem that you guys have. Ends everything you're saying is fine.
He comes on and tells us the problem we have.
Well, hold on.
Dude, you're not going to get any changes. Cal ain't going to change a damn thing, man.
I know.
He ain't changing a damn thing. He's going to roll in with this formula, and this is the way it's going to be, period, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what – I mean, when we say can bring in a Phil Martelli type, I don't even know who that would be. Kenny Payne's going to bring in Dennis Felton. I forgot Dennis Felton was with us. I forgot he was.
Did you think he was dead like Pete Gillen?
No. I just had
he's
no
gonna keep
idea
Ross McMahon.
where he was. I had no idea. He said, "Where's Dennis Felton?" I'm like, dude, I don't know. I have no idea where Dennis
South
Felton
Carolina
is.
Coach Dennis Felton. Is that the Fort?
Well, Western Kentucky.
Okay.
WKU.
Maybe South Carolina. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. But I mean, this is the biggest thing is. He pivoted last year when he got rid of Joel Justice, and Tony Barbie somehow got the Central Michigan job. Like this was the change. So this is year 2 of him changing, and this year the offense was better because he had more shooters. The defense let him down the last Ence, the last 10 games. I mean, the numbers the last 10 games. Maybe it was Jack Pilgrim.
And that goes to my second thing that I wanted to see, which is for him to learn to adjust as the season goes along and stop demanding, that the players do what isn't working. Because the reason that the defense started getting abused was teams started realizing all we got to do is play pick and roll offense. And Cal never did anything to adjust it. It kept putting Oscar out on an island where he couldn't defend. It led to the other team getting easy baskets, and we couldn't get out in transition and run anymore. And as soon as that happened and we stopped getting those free baskets from Oscar grabbing 25 defensive rebounds a game and getting it out to Wheeler and him going full tilt down the floor, we couldn't score. And for him to continue to not do anything, not hedge screens, not double team guys when he saw the pick and roll coming, it was just it's the same thing with him yelling shoot all the time when the last 7 games, and we talked about this the other night, and I gave you guys the numbers. The 3 starting guards went 77 of 201 the final 7 games of the season. How about instead of yelling for them to shoot when they clearly are in a slump and they have no confidence, draw up a damn play to get them an easy basket once in a while?
Damn it. I don't know if this is a scam or spam or whatever, but there's only one daddy on this show, and it's James. So phone him. Dover says, "Oh yes, daddy." Probably.
The hell's that?
Well, you're the daddy of the show, so
that's what Emily calls him.
Round daddy.
I'm very confused over that. As a large man.
Okay.
Cool, that man.
So he's not okay. All right.
Streble, what did you do today, Streble? What did you do today? What did you do today?
Kellen had a baseball game. My daughter had a softball practice that I had to go to. And then I had to coach a basketball game.
Oh, it's brutal.
Oh, basketball? You really coach basketball?
Yeah.
You were coaching?
We ended, 5-0.
Oh.
Let's roll the ball out there.
Yeah,
that's why I just roll the ball out. Unlike Cal, I don't lose.
Yeah. All your 5-star little
You'll
kids.
lose at the end.
At the end.
You'll be a 6.5 point favorite over another.
I'll be upset by the pink team.
And by the end of your basketball season, James, they'll all turn your back. Their backs on you.
I hope not.
Okay. Let's conclude this. Doc, I'm gonna give you the floor. Promote your book, and then give me a final shot.
Okay, I'll do that. In fact, I'll probably try to combine them in one little segment here. But my book is Kentucky Passion, and it is kind of a revelation of my 50 years as a Kentucky basketball fan. I've got a lot of experiences, and what I do in the book is I take 52 of what I call the most iconic moments in Kentucky basketball history, and I take the reader courtside with me to kind of re-experience them again. And you guys say, well, that's all fine and dandy, but what's really special about it? Well, not only is it a trip down memory lane, but I wanted it to be more than just a basketball book. I wanted it to have redeeming value off the court also. So I follow every one of those iconic moments with what I call a motivational lesson, a life lesson, so to speak, where you can kind of learn from what happened. For example, Mardi Gras miracle, when Kentucky's down by 31 points, the second half at LSU, they rally to come back. Well, I say, well, you can do the same thing in life. You can take those with the proper teammates, with the proper mindset. You can rally to overcome this game of life. So it's kind of neat from that standpoint. I also include a bunch of pictures from my brother, Dr. Mike, the photographer, a lot of 50, I think, full color photo prints of his original photos. That's worth the money itself.
There you go.
But my parting shot is, if Kansas wins this week, Kentucky will no longer be the all-time NCAA wins leader. And I know that doesn't matter to some fans, but for those of us who have really been invested over the past few decades, it's damn important. I remember back in the 70s and 80s when Kentucky and North Carolina were kind of jockeying back and forth for that all-time wins mantle. It was a huge deal, and it hurt to see another program overtake you and slide into that position. Plus, now I'm going to have to go back and edit all my books because I have Kentucky listed at the very top. Don't say that having more wins than anyone else, of being the best, of being the king of the hill, doesn't matter, because it does.
There you go. That's with passion. Now, Doc, for the record, a book that speaks Kentucky passion, there's got to be at least one quote in there that references put Richie in, right?
Yeah, there's a section we have on the unforgettables, and we chronicle all the Richie, all the John Pelfrey, Darren Feldhouse, Sean Woods. They're all in there. Passionate all the way, man.
And from putting Richie in to put Dante in. Is that still a thing? Put Dante in? Oh,
No,
that's all right. Jason, we'll go to you. Or before, Jason, I'll go to you. Give me your final take, shout out, final shot.
Well, real quick, Doc, don't edit your books just yet, because some of those Kansas wins might get adjusted here pretty soon. So,
Good point.
Democrat, Republican, I don't care. Call your representative this week and demand that they not be idiots and that they pass this damn daylight savings time bill and get rid of this thing once and for all.
I thought you were going to talk about the cannabis bill, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I mean, if that's your thing.
Round daddy.
Daylight savings time has got to end. It's one of the worst things ever. I know we got rid of it back in the 70s and they brought it back, but apparently this is going to stall in the House. Don't be idiots. Pass the damn thing so that we can come home in the winter and not have it, depressingly dark outside and not want to do anything. It's the right thing to do. It's an easy thing to do. Don't make it difficult. Give us our damn daylight.
Yeah. So it's not worth that 1 hour of extra sleep you get the next day?
Hell no.
Okay, just a second.
Plus, then we don't lose an hour in the
Okay,
in the spring.
it's a wash, right? But then if you keep it if the bill passes, then we don't need to worry about it, period.
Also, big thank you to Kentucky for yet again not passing gambling so that you can bring all your tax money over here.
There you go. Over there, over the bridge.
Where we get a tax refund because too much taxes were paid last year.
Yeah. Andy, it's your turn. This is, we call it the final shot. You get to just throw something out. It doesn't even have to be sports related, as you heard Jason say, but give me your final shot of the night. And
Well,
from me to you, thank you so much for
Well,
jumping
yeah.
on it. I appreciate it.
Anytime. I
Nice to
mean,
meet you, Rob.
mine was going to be Kentucky. I mean, I think what this did for you guys, and again, it's just my opinion, is of course Kentucky basketball wants to win every year, but it's the there we go, more Russian bots. Oh, it's anime. That might be. Is that Ence?
It is.
That's
I told you to
Ence's
cut
I
down on.
don't know where
Cut
that
Shadow
down
came
on
from.
account.
the
I've never watched
anime.
anime in my life.
We all know your
There's
Sailor
a
Moon
KSR
passions.
Streble burnt our account on Twitter now. I saw.
Of course, yeah, of
It got
course there is.
somebody today.
Yes,
Of course there is. I think what this year did is it made it like 100% clear going forward that there's pressure on Cal. Like it clamped down. I think it centralized the pressure. I think it was always about him winning the second title at Kentucky before he got out of there. But I think it took the process, and there was a little bit of air in the room, right? There was some air in the room, and I think it sucked the air right out of the room. That's what I think. I think that's what this year did, combined with last year. It expedited the process, and I think you ask what can get him fired up. I think the demand can get him fired up. By the way, Streble, you'll love it. Auburn is now lost. Auburn's down by 13 with under a minute to go.
Oh, wow.
great. The SEC continues
bad
to.
And of course,
wow.
they lose to an ACC team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They didn't work by Miami and Jim Larrañaga working that ass. Larrañaga.
You pronounced it right. All right, James, your final shot.
Oh, my final shot. RIP to Scott Hall, aka Reza Ramon. One of the best bad guys that you actually rooted for. I put him in the category with Mr. Perfect, the $1 Million Man. Shawn Michael when he was, sexy boy. That they were villains, but you like to see him win, and you laughed every time they went into the ring and did something. So I was a big Scott Hall fan, big Razor Ramon fan. Really sucks to lose him. So one more time for the bad guy.
Hey yo,
And
Max
add
is
on to that, John Clayton.
John Clayton. Oh yeah, yeah. There you go.
That one kind of hit. I think that hit the child in all of us on that one.
Yeah, there you go. Max, as always, you get the final shot of the night.
Wars news, so I had to dig in a little bit deeper and actually do a little bit of extra research. But then I started realizing our house is going through literal hell. I mean, no one's got it worse than me right now. Is that my perfect little child, my perfect son, has turned into an absolute monster, and we're starting the process of terrible twos with teething. The molars are cutting in right now, and I mean, I'm sorry, I love him, but he's become a little insufferable as of late.
We're not talking drastic measures here or anything. What are you Max? I don't know, what do you do?
And I just kind of just let him just. Is
he keeping you awake at night?
I mean, just like his dad.
Is he keeping you awake?
No, he sleeps great. But I mean, no, he sleeps great. The only issue is like he's just like his dad. He just has an absolute meltdown over something that really doesn't matter.
Keeps things real.
So I'm getting used to it. It's getting used to that, and then just having to look yourself in the mirror a little bit, going, okay, I gotta do the same thing. I feel you, kid.
We get a sign, from a higher power to guide us through day in life. So there's your. All right, fun show tonight, guys. Dr. John, as always, friend of and you didn't get the call to the text because we did take some time off, but as we do our shows, you're one of our go-tos, and we appreciate it. Love you. Where can people find you, Doc?
Yeah, easiest thing, go on my Twitter feed at Kentucky Huangs. You see it right there at KYHUANGS. I'll have links to all my other stuff, books, other shows, other media outlets that I write for. And you can find it all there.
Appreciate your time. ESPN 680 boys on tonight. I love it. Andy, thanks so much for doing this tonight. That really means a lot.
Yes,
definitely.
CFLs anytime, man. Anytime.
Awesome surprise, Andy. Loved it, man.
Was it?
Look at you in that background right now. I wish I knew what was going on in that background. What
That
kind of
flickering-
bondage
that
was being
flickering
set up?
candle in Kevin's background. We know
Yeah,
that.
my
Oh, I
background's
already know
nothing.
that.
Yeah. To sign us off, James, give us the calling for you guys.
Oh, our fine programming on ESPN 680 1057 The Take, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. The Kentucky Fish and Wildlife post-game show is over, but we'll be back next year. And love everything we do over there. And it's all local all the time. Nobody does more than we do.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. Kevin Hale, round of shots. You can find us
All right, I'm
all.
gonna go drink, guys.
Yeah, good stuff tonight, guys. Everyone, Cats, go Cats. We still going Cats. Peace out, guys. Good night.